Welcome back, everyone. Today I'm going to be reviewing a book that is very famous but also very relevant in today's times, and that is the reason that I picked it up. Even the Supreme Court quoted this book, uh, a quote from this book in its recent Pegasus order that was, obviously about surveillance and how the how privacy is is being undermined and how it is important to us. So to get a better perspective on the issue, I decided to read this book, 1984 by George Orwell. It is a dystopian novel that imagines a totalitarian state, and this novel was written in 1949 by George Orwell, imagining a state in 1984 with surveillance in a very totalitarian society where every person's actions would be monitored by the state, and any kind of dissent would not be tolerated and quelled. Um, the author of the book, George Orwell, is himself a fascinating character. He was a soldier and then a journalist and then an author, and he has immense, experiences, and these experiences he shares with us, and his imaginations he shares with us through his works. He was also, it's a lesser known fact that he was born in India in Motihari, in India in 1903, because his parents were civil servants of the British Crown, I guess, and that's how he was born in India. And later on, he joined British Army and then became a journalist and then an author. This book was published in 1949, and as I said, it imagines a totalitarian state that the author imagines it would be becoming in 1984, because the technology is evolving and developing very quickly, and that is the reasons that he sees it and tries to warn the society that if these kind of inventions are being are being made, and then if the state becomes so powerful that it is able to have all the resources to surveil every citizen, then the life of a citizen can become a hell. So now coming to the characters of the book. Also, I would not be giving any major spoilers, so because it's a fictional work, so I always keep it in mind to not give many spoilers. So the characters in the book are few but very powerful ones, very distinct, all of them. The first character is the protagonist of the story. It's Winston Smith. Now this person works in a ministry, that is under the party, under the government, this big government that is run by the Big Brother, and he works as a person who distorts history and also spreads propaganda. So he's a kind of person who, works on how to spread lies. So he clearly sees the kind of lies that are spread by the state, and the people are manipulated into believing these lies. So he's a kind of person who sees that the state is lying blatantly at the face of the people, and people are forced to believe them. The other character in the book is Julia. Now Julia is another fascinating character. She's a very beautiful lady, very young, and Winston is like 45 or so, and Julia is quite young, around 25 or so, and she is also a party worker, um, and she also works in one of the other ministries. Um, and they fall in love, and falling in love in under this state is kind of a crime, because party members, they believe, cannot indulge in anything else than the party work. So so relationships are not allowed, marrying a person you love is not allowed. So there's this thing in the book, that is that if you really like someone and you want to marry them, and the ministry gets to know that you are marrying that person because you are physically very attracted to that person, the ministry would not allow you, the ministry would not grant your application for marriage to that person. So it's a kind of it's that kind of society, it's that kind of a state that is created by Big Brother and the party, that you are that none of your wishes can be granted. The only thing that you do is to serve the party. um, Now there's another person called O'Brien. He's a member of the inner party. Inner party comprises 2% of the people, and the outer party comprises of around 13% of the people, and the rest, major chunk of the people who are there in the hierarchy are the proles. It's taken from proletariat, from Das Kapital, like that. So these are the people. The proles are the people that are laborers, and the party does not really try to exercise much influence over these people, because they believe that they are illiterate and they are the ones who are working for the for the in the factories and things like that. So they are allowed to indulge in these activities like casual sex, or uncensored, maybe exotic literature. But the members of the party are not allowed to do any of it. They are not allowed to exercise their free choices. Now, another character is Mr. O'Brien that I said. Now, Mr. O'Brien is a member of the inner party, which is a huge thing, because you get very certain privileges and you are a big person. But this Mr. Winston, he is quite attracted towards him because of the reason that even when he has a lot of influence and power, he is a very humble person. So he starts to think that this person who is very humble cannot be a member of this party, because these are all very authoritarian people, and that he is a person who's from the Brotherhood. The Brotherhood is a concept in the book where all the people who are secretly engaged in undermining the authority of this party, of this big brother, and they try to do something or the other to try to undermine and to express their dissent. So he starts to feel like this person, Mr. O'Brien, is a person who is secretively a high-ranking official of the party, but is secretively a member of the Brotherhood. So in this way, they get in a lot of trouble also, because later when they go to him saying that we want to work with you in the Brotherhood and we want that the party's regime is uprooted, they get in a lot of trouble, and that you will read in the book yourself. And the main opposition that is created by this party is another character. His name is Emmanuel Goldstein. So this Mr. Emmanuel Goldstein used to be a very high-ranking official of the party in the beginning. But then when Mr. Goldstein expressed his dissent towards the kind of totalitarianism this party had brought in the state, he was declared as a traitor and a person who did all the wrong things, and he wanted to destroy the big brother and the country and the nation. And that is how this narrative is created, that anybody who does not agree with the party and does not respect big brother is an accomplice of Mr. Goldstein, and he and these people are For example, there is this scene in the book that is that there are 2 minutes every day where some propaganda video is played, and when Mr. Goldstein appears on the screen as a traitor, you have to shout traitor, traitor, and you can even shout abuses at him, call names to him, and that is how you express your patriotism towards the big brother and the party and the country. So, and this is how the author tries to weave this narrative of totalitarian state, where even if you do not enthusiastically participate in dissing any dissenter, then you can be assumed to be a person who is a dissenter himself. So you have to engage very actively in trying to convince the party that you are one of them, and that you are not having second thoughts about anything that they are doing. And then there's this very interesting character who's vaporized for being very outspoken. His name is Jaime. He's a language expert. Another thing about this book is that it tries to show how if we limit the language, then we can limit the thoughts. For example, if we cannot think something, we cannot think something if we can't put it into words, and if we can't put it into words, it cannot be propagated in the masses. So this is another theme in the book, another thing in the book, that uh, it tries to show how the ruling party wants to bring a new language called Newspeak in the country, where the words are being limited every year. Every year with a new edition, the words are becoming more limited and limited. So that is how they are trying to even erase any concept of libertarianism or individuality, or dissent. If we They believe that if they erase the very words called dissent or disloyalty towards the party, or any if they erase all these words, then it will not even exist. So this is how the author also tries to show that if the words are removed from the consciousness of the people would not do it all together. And there's there's this very interesting slogan in the book, that war is peace, freedom is slavery, and ignorance is strength. And these are all polar opposites of each other. And there's another thing in the book, that is that a concept of double think, that is to the ability to be able to believe into to believe two contradictory things at the same time. For example, when you know that 2 plus 2 is equal to 4, and you know it mathematically that it is correct, but if the party says that 2 plus 2 is equal to 5, then you have to be able to believe that too. This is how the book introduces this thing called double think, and tries to, how it is popularized by the party in the state, and everybody believes in it. And another thing is that there's a thought police, and there's a thing called thought crime. That is, if you are having second thoughts about anything that the party is doing, then you are a criminal, and you have committed the offense of thought crime. And that and who are the kind of people who are the police officers in this thought police? It varies from children to the oldest persons. So there's this also very horrifying scene in the book, where there is a person of the outer party who is also an official in the ministry, and who's also a neighbor of Mr. Winston, I guess. He says something something in his sleep which is dissing the big brother. For example, maybe like, big brother is a traitor or something like that. He says this in his sleep, in a dream, while dreaming. His children, that is a boy of 9 and a girl of 5 years of age, they tell this to the state, and the state arrests him for doing this. And the author tries to create this very horrifying scene where everyone is involved in upholding the might of the state through surveillance. There's also this things called, everybody in their houses has a telescreen, and the telescreen can see and speak also. So whatever you do in your house can be seen, and there are telescreens and microphones everywhere in the city. And for example, when Mr. Smith and Julia want to have a little time away from these telescreens, because it's certainly not allowed to engage in a romantic affair, they go to a very far place in the country where they can finally spend some time together. And there are many horrifying scenes, and especially the things that happen to Mr. Winston when it's discovered that he's a traitor, in the sense of the book. It's absolutely horrifying. He loses every iota of his integrity when he says that, don't do this to me, do this to Julie, when he's being tortured, and Julie is the love of his life. This book was just very different. I have not read any horror book in my life, but I would say that this book is the most horrifying book that I've ever read. It is also a love story, because of the reason that Winston and Julia are in an affair. It's also a warning to all of us to behave, to ask the state to behave and not impinge on our privacy. Uh, so this is my book review. I believe that um, it is very interesting. It is kind of a page turner. It becomes dry for a little while for 15-20 pages, but I think you will overcome it, because the story is incredible, the plot is incredible, and it's in the city of London, in a country called Oceania. And another example of how the party manipulates its people is, and people also get manipulated because they fear retribution by the state. It is that this country called Oceania, which is this totalitarian state, is at war with Eurasia, and when it goes to and when it allies with Eurasia and goes to war with East Asia, they erase all the records of the fact that they were ever in conflict with Eurasia, and the whole masses believe. There's this very funny incident where everyone in a huge crowd is shouting slogans against, say, Eurasia, because they are at war with them, and suddenly the government announces that we are not at war with Eurasia, but East Asia. So everybody who had this banner of down with Eurasia, down with Eurasia, they not just put those banners down, but also blame this other country called East Asia of manipulating and changing the banners and trying to to manipulate the whole mass. And this is the kind of stupidity that the people in the novel show, because they are also perfect in the they have perfected themselves in the art of doublethink, and also because they fear the state so much. And it's one of the most fearful reads I have ever read, and some of the scenes in the book are so horrifying that you don't want to read them. But it's a very worthwhile to read a book, so please read it. And I'll see you next week with a new book review. Till then, take care, stay safe. Thank you very much for watching.